So I did an interview a few years ago actually, and I was talking about depression, and that video of that interview, I get asked about that possibly more than any video I've done. So I wanted to do a bit of an update and talk about depression in the deeper sense, the deeper meaning of depression. And because often people ask, well, how does depression relate to awakening? Is it possible to awaken? Or is it possible to discover who I am in the midst of depression, or do I have to get rid of my depression? Or is awakening some kind of cure for depression? So I was saying in the video a few years ago that I was speaking from personal experience with depression. What depression feels like is what it can feel like in its extreme form. You wake up in the morning and life just feels so heavy, and it feels like you have to hold up this burden. Life becomes this burden, and it becomes so difficult, almost impossible, exhausting, holding up this burden. So what is the burden? The burden is the burden of me. That's what becomes so exhausting, and this is true probably for everyone, not just people who are diagnosed with depression, but everyone in the world is on some level trying to hold up some kind of image, some kind of story of themselves, the story of my life, the story of my past, the story of my imagined future, the story of my successes and my failures and my hopes and my dreams and my plans. What can happen is that story can just become so heavy, so the experience of depression, extreme depression, clinical depressions, you wake up in the morning and everything just feels so heavy, and it becomes such a struggle to live. Just getting out of bed in the morning becomes virtually impossible, because it takes so much effort to hold up this story, the story of me in my life, the story of me. It feels like you're being weighted down by your story. It feels like it can even get to the point, it feels like you're being crushed by your story. You are literally pressed down. You're literally depressed, pressed down by your story. But the thing is, this is really a wonderful invitation. This is what I would say. It's actually contained within this experience, the experience of being pressed down by your story, the experience of being depressed by life, the experience of being crushed by the weight of you. It's a wonderful invitation, really, to discover this awakening, because it's and as I was saying in the other video, that there is a truth to depression, and the truth is actually that. And this is a truth that we often miss in our urge to quickly cure depression. Quickly, you're sad. Quickly, make you happy, or get back to work. And actually, we can so easily end up missing the deeper truth in depression, which is that this isn't your life to hold up. The story of me in my life. This isn't who you really are. This person that you're pretending to be, this character that you're pretending to be, this facade that you're living in the world. It's not really who you are. Like you've been pretending to be something that you're not. So inevitably that's going to crush you. Pretending to be something that you're not, pretending to be this image, pretending to be the story of me, is eventually for everyone going to become exhausting. And it can even become, in the case of clinical depression, it can even become, totally exhausting and crushing. But the point is, it's not your life to hold up in the first place. This story of you isn't really who you are. It's not who you really are. So that's the deeper truth that depression is pointing to. If we can really listen to depression, because what life is really saying is, look, wake up. This isn't really your life. This isn't really who you are. The story of you is not who you really are. So we could view depression not as a mental illness or as some kind of sickness, or it's not that there's something deeply wrong with you. And I want to say here that, lots of people have all kinds of theories about what depression is, that it's a mental illness, or it's a brain chemical disorder, or it's genetic, or it's in your DNA, or whatever, and I don't want to say anyone is wrong. I'm just offering this perspective from my own experience, looking at depression in a deeper sense. So perhaps depression is not a sickness or an illness. Perhaps it's an invitation. I often speak of life as a constant invitation to awaken, or an invitation to discover who you really are, which is not this separate, limited, constricted self. You are not the story of your life. Who you are in this moment is not the image of you. Who you are in this moment is this wide open space. Some use the word awareness or consciousness. In the end, it doesn't really matter what words you use. I often speak about the ocean, the waves in the ocean. So who you are really is not the story of your life. Who you are is this vast ocean in which thoughts arise and dissolve, sensations arise and dissolve, feelings arise and dissolve. And who you are as the ocean doesn't come and go, doesn't arise and dissolve. Who you are as the ocean is always present. What you are is always present. So the waves may come and go, thoughts come and go, sensations come and go, feelings come and go, images, ideas, memories come and go. Even the most intimate ideas about yourself, judgments about yourself come and go. So none of these waves can truly define you, although they are deeply allowed in you. So who you are is vast and unlimited. So really, depression is just an invitation. This is what I would say. Depression is this invitation to rediscover your unlimited, vast, boundless nature as awareness itself, or consciousness. Life is saying, look, you're not who you think you are. This isn't your life. This life doesn't fit you anymore. If it ever did, you're not this limited. In a way, we can view depression as it's like a loss of interest. It's like unconscious maybe at first, but it's a loss of interest in being this story. It's a loss of interest in holding up the story of your life. So viewed from one perspective, that's kind of pathological, because you're supposed to be interested in your life, and you're supposed to want to be this person, and you're supposed to know how your life is supposed to go, and you're supposed to make your life work, and you're supposed to be the one who is in charge of your life. You're supposed to be the one who is orchestrating your life. And actually what depression is inviting you to see is that actually maybe that's not true. Maybe it's not true for you. Maybe who you are is this vast ocean. You're not limited to these waves. You're not limited to thoughts, sensations, feelings. Who you are is this vast ocean. So depression is really just inviting you to rest in who you really are. Stop pretending to be that which you are not. Stop pretending to be this story. Stop pretending to be this false image, this inauthentic false image, and wake up to who you really are, and rest deeply in that. I mean, that's really, so many people that I meet are so exhausted from life, so exhausted from the struggle, the seeking, struggling to find what they're looking for, struggling to hold up the image of themselves, the image of as the successful businessman or businesswoman, the image of the mother, the father, the image of the one who knows, even the image of the spiritually enlightened one, pretending to be enlightened, pretending to be awakened, pretending to be anything is going to become exhausting. But that's what then that exhaustion is wonderful. Then it's not the enemy. The exhaustion is an invitation to stop. Stop pretending to be something that you're not. Stop pretending to be something that you're not, and rest deeply. That's really, I think, at the very core of depression there is this invitation, there's this call to rest deeply in the truth of who you are. And I love the fact that the word depressed sounds almost identical to deep rest. So deep rest and deep rest. So actually, you see, at the core of depression there is this invitation that's so easily missed. When we rush to treat depression or cure depression or fix depression or fight depression, or we think we're down and we want to get up again. We're a down person. We want to become an up person. We're a sad person. We want to become a happy person. We're a failed person. We want to become a successful person. So the invitation is actually to go beyond this duality of the person, the successful person or the failed person, the rich person, the poor person, the person who knows, the person who doesn't know. The truth of yourself comes before all of that. What you are is not this one or that one, the successful one or the failed one, the happy one or the sad one. What you are is this vast open space in which all of these movements of life, success and failure, happiness and sadness, joy and pain, certainty and doubt, they are all deeply allowed to move in you. Like all of life's energies are allowed to move in you. But we, in constructing this false self, we start pushing away life's energies. We fall into this idea of opposites, and good and bad, and success and failure, and rich and poor, and happy and sad, and certainty and doubt, and we reject what we call the negative aspect or the dark aspect. So we reject the doubt, we reject the fear, we reject the pain, we reject the failure. We reject all these aspects of life we call negative, and we seek the positive. But really, that's what becomes so exhausting, is being at war with like half of life. So life is constantly calling us back. It's saying, look, I'm everything. Life is everything. Just in the same way that the ocean arises as all of its waves, not just half of its waves. All of its waves are included. So this is the call of depression, is what I would say. And I'm not an expert on anything. I don't claim to be. I don't claim to be the one who knows. I don't have that image of myself. I don't claim to be anything really. This is just. I would say it's an invitation to look more deeply, and maybe to just for a moment let go of all our prior assumptions and ideas of what depression is. Maybe depression is not the enemy, and it's calling to us. It's actually calling us to heal in a way. It's calling us to a deeper healing. It's all just an invitation, as the whole of life is really. It's all just an invitation to remember in this moment. Forget about remembering it tomorrow, or whether or not you remembered yesterday. That becomes irrelevant now, in this moment. Remember who you are now, which is this vast, open, spacious capacity for every thought, every sensation, every feeling. All of these waves, they're all welcome in you as the ocean. They're all welcome. What you are is just the home for all of life. All of life comes to rest in you. Life was never about you trying to rest. It was never about you, a separate person, coming to rest. That was always the dream. What you are is the home. What you are is already at rest, and all of life comes to rest. Every thought, every sensation, every feeling comes to rest in you. So that's the deeper meaning of depression. It's not. It's very different to what we're taught. It's maybe it's not common sense, but this understanding, really completely changed my life and the lives of lots of people that I know. Just discovering this deep rest at the core of everything. It's always present. It never leaves. It can't be destroyed. it's home. You know, it's home. It's what we were always looking for, but we could never find, because we were always looking for it out there in the world. And what depression... And I see now that, you know, years ago when I was going through this depression, I realise now, maybe I didn't see it at the time, but I realise now it was all just a signpost. It was all one giant a very painful signpost at the time, but it was a signpost. It was an invitation. It was a calling to rest, because I back then I didn't know how to rest. I had never rested in my life. I didn't know how to rest, and I think that's true for a lot of people that I meet. We just don't know how to rest. You know, we've never been taught how to rest. So many people that I meet are exhausted, but they're fighting their exhaustion. And so what I'm saying is that we just stop and listen to the exhaustion, and we listen to the depression, you know, as it softly whispers in our ear, just look, rest, child, just rest, you're exhausted, rest. And that's the deeper truth of life is this rest. And in the end we are all invited back to it, you know, in many different ways, not always depression, but we're all invited back to this rest.